Alright, so I had to, finally get back into recording and stuff just at the perfect time, apparently, because this is a topic I really have. Uh, I've mentioned it before, and I've also talked about it in my previous Mystery Dungeon Thoughts video when that was first being announced. That was a long time ago, 5 months almost. Uh, and so things have changed, and of course, we had an announcement new Pokemon Snap, which. I'll be honest, I'm not a big Snap fan. I think it's very nostalgia heavy for a lot of people, and of course, a lot of them are. But their Pokemon Snap is kind of one of those things. If it was on any other console besides the N64, it wouldn't be memorable. But because the N64 has very few good games as a whole, it's not that well, I guess, well known in that regard. Like, it's not known for being a fantastic game. It's known for being a good N64 game, which is not hard to say. So, when we talk about Pokemon Snap, overall, I'm excited to see it. Not because I'm going to enjoy it, but because it represents something that I feel has been missing for a long time. I talked about this before, is the side games. The side games of Pokemon. Something, if you're not a fan of Pokemon or if you've gotten into it in recent years, which I'm very sorry, you've missed out. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Let's Go Eevee, and Let's Go Pikachu. The only side game I could think of off the top of my head that came out at that time was the Pokemon Quest game, which is a mobile game and it's a side game, and it was alright, but it didn't hold a lasting impression like the Mystery Dungeon games, the Ranger games, Conquest, which is one of my favorites of all time. Uh, Heck, even the Stadium games for Gen 1 and 2. You have the trading card game, which we only got the first one, and the second one's still fun if you manage to find an English translation or anything along those lines. But there was also the Rumble games. There were different amounts of the Pokepark games. There's so many different games that came out in different times. Mostly the 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation held them. And that was the best time to be a Pokemon fan, because even if you were kind of being burnt out on the main games, you could go over to a side game and still be a part of the universe. It was very great. It was amazing. When I was younger, 4th generation hit and I had mystery dungeons, especially like Explorers of Sky. I got Darkness on release and so on and so forth. I got the Ranger games. Eventually, once 4th generation ended, I got Black and White. I kind of really thought originally that Black and White weren't that great, and I still kind of stand by it a little bit, but I wasn't enthused, but I could go back to the older ones. And then Black and White 2 came around. I was like, okay, this is a little more my taste. It's fun. But then Conquest, I found out about Conquest, and I was thoroughly engaged in that. And it made the main games, which I had problems with, seem a lot less bad, because I could kind of distract myself, and it's a good thing to have side games, especially with Pokemon. Pokemon is one of those things that I feel is such hit and completely miss sometimes, that the side games will help out a lot, and I think it really did with Mystery Dungeon coming out when it did. We had Sword and Shield that came out in November. Then we had kind of a hype up trailer for the DLC, which already released. Excuse me, and so the Mystery Dungeon kind of fed into the hype, and now we have new Pokemon Snap. And being honest, a lot of these games aren't going to take a lot of work. They're not technologically impressive. Graphically, they're very stylistic, which, by the way, if you're doing a comparison between N64 and new Pokemon Snap, you need to go find something to do, because that is actually stupid. You're plotting 2 points between over 2 decades, or about 2 decades. That's a waste of time. But when you look at it, every single choice is going to be stylistic depending on what they want to show, and kind of harken back to our nostalgia. That's what the Mystery Dungeon did. Mystery Dungeon DX. It was kind of just throwing us back to when Mystery Dungeon wasn't that well known. Mystery Dungeon was a series long before Pokemon got involved, and it's still around as a separate series. And so when you have Pokemon Mystery Dungeon kind of come back in and kind of revitalize stuff, when you get these side games, I thoroughly think it is nothing but good, especially if you're a Pokemon fan. If you're not, I'm sorry you're gonna see us just talk about them nonstop because that's all we know how to do. But when it comes down to it, if you're a Pokemon fan, this is nothing but a good sign. This shows a willingness to get back into not just main games, but maybe focusing on different and new avenues. We used to have such things as Pokemon Channel, which was an experiment, didn't work out. It was kind of a sequel to Hey You Pikachu. That didn't work out either, but every new thing that comes along, or every new entry in not the mainline games of Pokemon, is a good thing to me, because it is a way for someone else to get captured in the world and expand the branding of Pokemon, which I feel has been kind of not falling apart, but kind of loosening a bit in recent years. I think that's all I really want to say about this. I'm excited, and I hope you are too, and I'll talk to you guys later. Till then.